Welcome to Flooring Models Daily Vlogs. Here we are on Monday. Busy day this week. In fact, this week is going to be a really busy week in general. Obviously, it's the end of the month, but also it's the end of the financial year. So we've got all paperwork and stuff and things to sort out. And I get asked a myriad of questions from accountants and stuff like that, which we need to answer. Obviously, and this isn't just a thing to get you guys to get and buy and all the rest of it. I'm trying to do you a favour because, I say, prices are going up on the Flooring Models site. So if you do want to buy something, do it now, between now and Friday. Okay, so get your orders in and you'll be absolutely fine. You're going to be left at the old price. Don't panic. We've tried to keep them as, you know, as best as we can as we make our way through. But obviously prices are going up between 10 and 20% on depending on various things around the site and everything else. And like I have explained, if you are a member, I have got your back quite well covered on this. So don't panic too much. Yes, there is going to be a price rise, but it's not going to be absolutely huge as we make our way through. But if you are thinking of ordering, get in there quick and we can try and get your order processed and sorted straight away, and you can get it this week. And then next week, obviously the pricing is all going up, so I might have to take a couple of days off beginning of the next week and certainly over the weekend to get the site all updated, upgraded. Obviously our terms and conditions are all changing, everything as you can imagine it like that. So because obviously subscription prices are going up and all those things. But if you are holding out and you want to go yearly, obviously that will start on Saturday morning UK time, and then as it flows through obviously into next year and onwards. So it's going to be £40 per year, or it's going to be £4 a month. So we're going up by £1, or as somebody pointed out the other day, it's only £6 on a yearly one. So it's not so bad at all. Anyway, thank you for all the feedback on Friday's show. Usual thing, a couple of haters popped along, really. Anyway, block, delete, idiots. Don't take any notice of anything anyone says. We are here to say, yes, things are slightly changing. I know you get this knee-jerk reaction because I'm taking stuff away from YouTube and I'm not putting out as much free stuff as I do. True, that is very true. We're not going to be doing the one-day builds where are completely just open for everyone to watch. The live shows are not now going to be open for anybody to watch, but you guys will be able to see them as a recording a little bit later on. That's the only thing that's going to change on that part. The daily vlogs as well, they're going to get tweaked and changed slightly because I'm planning on doing something a lot more interactive with the membership. And technically, don't forget, everything I do here is for the members. So when I'm talking here, I'm not talking to everybody. I'm talking to everybody as a general, and hopefully you guys can pick up some tips and tricks, but I'm doing this because I'm talking to the membership, and that's what it is. So as starting next week, we've got a new thing starting of questions and mini tutorials and everything that are going to be working all on the fly, making us a lot more interactive and stuff like that. But eventually non-payers will be able to watch it as well later on down the line. Just start with you won't. Friday show will remain no matter what. It will always going to get the Friday show. Just all the daily vlogs and that are just going to slightly tweak just a little bit, so there might just be a delay between. So obviously the members are getting everything fresh and new and can ask us questions on the fly, and we get answers to them the same day. That's really what it's all going to be about to make our way through. Speaking of which, a load of you have been asking about tutorials. I spoke about the other day that technically products change so often and so quick and everything else like that, and how can you go about, you know, obviously doing new products and stuff. Tutorials, they sort of fall down. So some of these tutorials we were speaking about in here, they talk about primers that I don't use anymore, gloss coats I don't use anymore, and everything else. So what we want to do is go around and obviously update various ones, like on glossing, what do I think is the best gloss at the moment? Primer, what's the best primer out there at the moment? So I am going to be resorting those out over the next couple of weeks. It'll be standalone videos around about 15 to 30 minutes as normal, which will then go into the tutorial section, and you can click in there and go through those and watch them. It's just like little things like, you know, technically we are slightly a little bit out of date because rescribing and riveting, I think, is out. We haven't got Rosie the Riveter in here, which I think is still like the best thing ever. So these longer videos that we've done on all how to do rescribing and re-riveting and stuff like that, they're missing key little bits of information. So what I want to do is go around now over the next few weeks and do lots of little standalone videos, sort of one-day projects, so to speak, to show you that and incorporate those into here. Because it came up the other day, somebody said, you haven't got Rosie the Riveter in there, and it's like, yeah, but I did it before. And that is the trouble with this hobby, because it's always evolving. New products are coming out, new techniques. It's very hard to keep on top, and although I only did that video about a year ago, technically it's obsolete now. So what I need from you guys is to let me know in the comment section down below what you would like to see. Okay, so technically pop down in there, you'd like to see, you know, updated on this, this and this, and I'll try to do it. The only thing I'm drawing the line at, which I get asked a lot, is paints, because everyone says, can you do this, can you do that? The trouble is, it costs a lot of money to buy paints in, and it takes a lot of time to sort of, you know, properly evaluate them. I've learned this recently with various products, that I don't just, you know, get them in, squirt them on a bit of paper, say they're great, everyone goes out and buy them. As you know now, I won't do that anymore. I will test the product extensively over many months, see how I get on with it. That's what we did with the glue, you know, when we worked with that new sort of extra thin stuff and everything like that. So really I can get a good feel for it. MRP paints, again, I used them, getting the feel for them before I gave a proper review about how to use them when we sprayed the actual SU27 in anger. So I give you a proper feedback instead of just spraying it on a bit of plastic and saying, yeah, it's great, and the rest of it. So for guys saying, oh, can you buy such and such paint in, can you buy a thing? The other thing you have to remember is not all paints are equal. So sometimes you get certain colours work well and certain colours don't work so well. Some paints have better coverage than others, stuff like that. So you need to get an overall opinion about a paint before you go around and do it. So I know there's loads of that saying, oh, get this slot in and get this in and test it. It's the time it physically takes to go through and do it, stuff like that. So that's why we tend to pick out paints that I feel are game changers, something a little bit different. A lot of people said, why did you jump on MRP so much? Because it was a new type of enamel slash lacquer based paints and stuff like that that were coming in that I hadn't used before. It's not just another flavour of acrylic, it's not just another flavour of, you know, different types of paint out there. So from that point of view, it was nice to get one in, give it a proper test, and then go through the motions of it, and then give my opinion a few weeks later to show you guys exactly what I feel about it, and then hopefully you'll reap the rewards I have done from it. Or it could have been complete junk and I would have told you never go near it with a stick, you know. And then you still get people to say, yeah, but it works for me. So that is the plan. So that's what we want to do with this one. So have a go through, please have a look through, because also we get a lot of people, obviously you guys who are new to the site probably don't know about the tutorial section. So down here under basic modeling, we've got basically the step-by-step from buying a kit, gluing it together, sanding it, rescribing it, test fitting, you know, going through it in the basics area down there. About this one was a classic that people never really seem to see, polishing and masking compound canopies. We've got a full video on it, but people still always ask about, can I do a video? The other things as well, down in these ones down here, we've got more on then gluing standalone little ones about, you know, using fillers and sanding and stuff like that. These are all ones where we've either done standalone videos or we've taken those videos from specials that we've done, like live shows and stuff. We can take it out and put it in there, making your own styrene fillers and all the different types of putties and various things down in there. There's lots of it in there, but what I need to know from you guys is what's out of date, what's obsolete, what do we need to get rid of, what really needs updating, so then I can make a decision, go through a list and say, right, we're going to redo this, this and this. Be interesting for one-day projects perhaps, things like that, and I can get your feedback as we're doing it as well. So what I intend to do is a bit like these things, and then we'll do a live thing as well with it, so we can ask questions as I'm physically doing it to show exactly what's going on and things like that. So that's the plan with that one. So give us your feedback, have a look through, see what's missing, see what's out of date, and then we can put together a new 2017 list of tools, tips and tricks and everything else just like that. So again, like the helpful tips section, there's loads of videos down in here about stripping down airbrushes, tips for mixing better paint brushing and everything else like that, repairing your models when you drop them, even if you remember that, and various ones. So you can see there's plenty of videos down in there that I think people just don't realise how many there is, which is probably my fault, and I need to sit down, which I intend to do next month, and redo the main website and try and get it sorted out and make it flow and easier to find a little bit better. But there's loads in there, but as I said, some of it I know is out of date. So today what I'm going to do is, in a minute, I'm going to finish off editing part 1 of the Skyhawk, so you're going to get that this afternoon, and then I'm going to look at how I'm going to edit up the last part of the A10. Technically there's 2 more parts, but I'm thinking about re-editing it slightly to bring it down into one slightly longer last part, perhaps around about 45 minutes, instead of having one that's going to go slightly over 2, maybe 3 parts, to make it a little bit better of a final finale for that as well. So looking forward to getting those two done. So that's it from me for the moment. I'll be back with you a little bit this afternoon to see how we're getting on. Hello and welcome back. So we have primed up the A6. To be honest, I can't see what you can see. There we go. The A4, all primed up, been right the way over it. To be honest, we've gone a little bit old school on this one. We've gone back to using Tamiya primer. I don't know, you know me, I like to mix things up and everything else. A couple of new little techniques I've used on it, which I'll actually explain more in the video, but basically we've given this a lacquer coat afterwards, sorry, a thinner coat afterwards, which is something that I picked up from Hans. He tends to use it, and again, it's worked out lovely because this has got a real silky smooth feeling to the paint, which is really, really nice. But generally, no problem at all. There's a couple of little tidy up bits I want to do, but that's the whole point of primer. At the end of the day, you can look at it now and you can see any faults you've got and stuff like that. But you might be able to see you've still got the sort of the redness from where we put that in, so it might need a little bit of primer just down there just to get rid of that. But generally, I have to say, gone in there really nicely, and quite nice to go back to old school Tamiya. That's going to go out the window next, of course, because we're going to be using MRPs to actually paint it. But usual thing, I don't know if you can see this on here, I don't know how well the camera's working on this, but I thought, I know, I save a little bit of time and I'll put the refueling probe on now, and as I was using the hairdryer to dry this down a little bit, I clipped it and sheared it off in 3 parts. So usual thing about trying to speed things up, and you end up making more accidents and everything else like that. Anyway, I've got a bit of time for a couple of questions. I'm trying to keep up with the questions as and when we get them. Next week, for the sort of daily shows, you're going to see something a little bit different, a little thing I'm planning on doing. I'll explain more about it next week. But generally, what I'm going to try and do is do the questions as they arise that day. So as I've just done this one, you have questions on a particular project I'm working on. As it goes up, one part of it every single day, you can ask questions and I'll answer in the morning in the blogs those questions that have arisen from that particular build that you saw the day before. That's how I want to answer it, and that way if you've got any more sort of more in-depth detail questions, as I've got the model right in my hand, I can say to you, yeah, you're asking about this, and I can show you on that particular model I'm working on. And perhaps if you need more information, you want me to cover something a little bit better, a little bit more in depth, I can do it there and then. And that's the whole point, to make it a little bit more interactive. But as I said, I've got all these great plans and all the rest of it, how things are going to change, so bear with me. And as I said, next week we'll go through it properly so you get an idea of it. But basically the whole point is, as you see something, I'll be able to answer the question right there and then as we make our way through with the actual build. Anyway, a couple of things that have come up, and I've lost my mouse. My mouse is over there, so I can only do a couple of them. Rob was saying how he's loving the A10, still working through his, absolutely lovely. Could you recommend a couple of video builds where you weather and dry brush cockpits? I'm trying to achieve a well-worn look on a P51. Right, okay, so most of the builds that you see out there have a form of dry brushing in it. Some of the more probably in-depth ones about it is that if you're looking for more sort of, you know, worn down paintworks, cockpits, stuff like that. But generally, if you're looking at any of the builds, so I'm looking back at what we've done recently to show you more in depth, probably have a look at the Intruder, probably a good one. We did a lot of dry brushing in the cockpit of that, if I remember rightly. We did lots of dry brushing in things like helis. They tend to have it inside and outside as well. But also have a look in anything that's got sort of quite a lot of surface detail. Anything that's got sort of, you know, those nice jaggedy edges, things like that. That's what goes down. Biggest thing is when you're doing any type of dry brushing is to let it build up. It's not one of those you make one pass and it's done. And like I always explain when I'm talking about dry brushing in detail, perhaps we'll do a tutorial on it, is to let it come to life, all right? So what you actually do is have the minimal amount of paint on your brush as possible, okay? So when you're doing it, you put the minimal amount of brush, and you can use quite a large brush if you want to. And what you're actually doing is you're just lightly rubbing over. Again, don't do this scraping lot, because when you do the scraping lot, what you're actually doing is wearing through the paint that's on there. You're not actually building it up on top. So you want to use quite a soft brush, very light strokes, and then coming in from all the different angles as well. Just don't come in from one way, because you're going to get a build up on one side, but you come in from all the ones. So just do, you know, the crosses over it and then come in from the angles all over it. But literally, it's one of those things where it's not 2 passes and it's done, because if you do it like that, it tends to be too strong. What you want to do is gradually let it fade through. So by taking your time, and it might take you a few minutes of literally rubbing and rubbing and rubbing, load up your brush, knock it basically all off, then go back and lightly bring it up. The other options, of course, is to dry brush with oils. Now, dry brushing with oils is a completely different kettle of fish. The great thing about it is that it's not like dry brushing with an acrylic, because if you dry brush with an acrylic, it dries and then you basically end up rubbing it away. Oils, they tend to blend and they give you a really nice effect for actually doing dry brushing. So if you have got some of the 502s, things like that, the lighter shades I'm thinking, and I've got, just actually what colours I've actually got in here, but we've got various lighter shades of greys and that, and you've also got like the AK Interactive stuff. They've actually got the ones which they have light grey highlighting, they actually call it for that. Again, you can use oils. The great thing with oils though is because they don't dry, they go on forever. So whereas like if you're using like an acrylic and you dab your brush in and it's dry brushing all the way over it, it's a couple of passes and you're reloading. Oils, you're just blending it all around. Works absolutely lovely. So that's one of the things. And also, speaking of that, have a look at the Bandai build of the Millennium Falcon, because I did a lot of dry brushing on that with oils using that said technique. And if you want to know about oils, using them neat for dry brushing and to change panel colors, things like the Kinetic Harrier FA2, I used it on for that, for actually doing panels and external parts and actual flat areas as well, just to blend in colors and all those things. But again, it might be a good idea for us to do something like that for a tutorial in the near future, as we were talking about this morning. Chris says, hi Phil, just watched part 6 of your Hurricane build and using paints for doing the canopy frames. You showed a method of scratching that you then said you could go back and polish the areas that get scuffed with a cocktail stick. How do you polish up on such tiny parts? My fluorine model's polishing would be the way too big for getting inside such jobs, especially on a 1/72 scale canopy. Thanks in advance. Wooden cocktail sticks. The great thing with the wooden ones is that to start with, obviously they're not going to scratch physically the plastic, they're just going to rub through it, okay? So once you've rubbed through it a little bit, then you can just come along and you can then cut the cocktail stick further up where it's thicker, and you can make wedges out of it, and you can actually go around. Then because it's wood, if you wet it slightly, and being wood, you can actually go around and polish up the entire area, then use a cotton bud just for getting in there. Again, it's one of those things, because it's very small, you can go through. But cotton buds you can then just polish as well, twiddle them, get them in there. Micro brushes as well, just give them a rub if you've got some of the cheap they're actually super glue applicator brushes for nail things, for eyelashes, but micro brushes. Okay, some of those as well, you can just wet them, give them a little bit of a rub and put them on there just to clean up the parts right the way through. But generally, if you're using like an acrylic, they usually scratch pretty clear. You might know we did it on the A10. Obviously in the inside of the A10, we did that thing about with the actual aerial that runs up through the top of the canopy. We went through and we just scraped it with a cocktail stick, because I just sprayed it silver and then cleaned it all up like that, and then a rub with a cotton bud, and that cleared the problem. But very small stuff, again, it tends to be thicker glass on 72nd stuff. You don't really see much through it anyway from a point of view of crystal clear. It's not like you're going to see a figure through on the other side. So from something like that, you can literally just get in there and go through. And then micros brushes, they're great as well, because you can just give them a little bit of a rub and you'll be good to go. Last one for the minute. Stephen says, hi Phil, can you help? I have moved to using MRP paints and I have to say I love them, but I can't get decals or decals, transfers, okay, to stick or to take. I must be doing something wrong. I have no idea what. What would you do and add to the, could you add this to the decaling video on, say, an update? Good point. Okay, the reason they don't stick is because the surface is so slick. Okay, what happens is that because MRPs are a lacquer-based paint, they give you an incredibly smooth finish. What tends to happen is the decal sits on top, has the tiniest amount of water, but because it's on a polished surface and it is so, that little bit of water enables them just to keep moving. So what you need to do, like I do, is half take out the water. So very lightly roll a cotton bud right over the top of your actual decal. So if you're doing something like this down on here and you've got your plane and you're doing it on, place the decal down roughly, give it a couple of light wipes right the way over to get most of the water out, then position it. Once you've got it down into the perfect position you want to, really give it some stick and roll it out, roll that water away, and once the water is out you will find it will weld on better than ever. And that is the thing, if you've got perfect finish, like a glass-like finish, you will get zero silvering and all the rest of it, because you're going to get no actual gap between the carrier film on the transfer and the actual model itself, because it's that gap that causes that sort of hazing which gives you silvering and stuff like that. But if it is, and I have noticed exactly the same thing in recent builds where I've come to put decals down, you put them on there and you think you've got all the water over and then it just moves and it's like, how's it still moving? There's nothing there. But it is that little thing of grip. What you don't want to do though is go in there with something like setting solution straight away until you've got that decal exactly where you want it to be. Then come in with your setting solutions and that will bite it in, because when it does bite, boy does it bite. It really welds itself down. And for the, I've only done it on a handful of models, as you know, but all the ones I've done it to, I've had exactly zero silvering without the need of going back or aggressive setting solutions and stuff like that, really, to get those all fitted down there. So there we go. Hopefully I'll do some more questions with you tomorrow, being Tool Tuesday. I say I'm going to find something and we'll talk about that. Anyway, as we have it here, good segue. Part 1 of this is up now. Now this is going to be quite a few parts. You know, sorry, it's not going to be that many parts. It's going to be quite quickly going to go through. So in this part, what we do, we talk about actually just doing the prep work. We talk about the project ahead, obviously, and then we talk about actually going in, doing the cockpit, so we get that done. We use paint, to be honest. We have a quick spray around with MRP paint just around in the cockpit, and then we go in there with a colour photo etch set, get that installed right the way through. Part 2 literally is putting it together. Part 3 you'll be to here. As I say, I've got this down. Tomorrow I'm going to do in the morning, I'm going to go around and put the actual pre-shading onto this one, and then we're going to come in with the white work maybe tomorrow, and then we can come back in a little bit later on to actually get the light gold grey right the way over this, and then I can easily see this by the end of the week we'll be painted, weathering done and everything else. I'm not going to go overboard on weathering on this because they are quite clean jets, and I love that gold grey finish with the white as well, being the sort of older US Navy colour, shall we say, but it is a very nice one. It's one of my favourites. I'm looking forward of going my way through with that one. But as I said, if you're liking quick type builds, you're going to love this one, because I think it might be just be a 4 or 5 parter tops and we'll be done. So by the end of the week, as I say, this one will be out of the way. Like I mentioned before, it's going to be a bit bitty this week with everything going on, and probably the start of next week, but definitely starting next week we will be getting on with that King Tiger. Going to be pushing in very nicely with that one, working out how to do that interior, the best way of displaying it, how we're going to display it. There's so many questions with that one, which we'll talk about next week as we make our way through anyway. So there we go, that's it from me. Thanks for joining me. Happy modelling, take care, and I'll catch you all tomorrow.